Zhang Zhang, good morning in Monaco. How are you?
Good morning, Benoit. I'm all right.
It's such a pleasure to receive you in our Chorus podcast. And we want to thank you for accepting the invitation. Recently, you made the grade in many ways. We're very proud of you and all that you've done for the defense of culture and music. And we may touch a little bit on that, but we're here to talk about musical diplomacy. And this is how we have titled the podcast today. And I would like to ask you if you could introduce yourself.
My name is Zhang Zhang. I was born in Beijing, China. I'm a classical violinist. Since 20 years, I've been a member, 21 years now, I've been a member of the L'Orchestre Philharmonique de Monte Carlo. And I'm a founder of ZhangomusiQ, which is completely dedicated to creating musical philanthropy concerts in aid of humanitarian, educational, and environmental projects around the world.
Can you tell us more about the story behind the creation of ZhangomusiQ? What was the thought process? How did it happen?
It happened in early 2005. I joined in the global movement of solidarity to help the victims of the Indian Ocean tsunami, which happened on December 26, 2004. Specifically, we created a concert dedicated to help a fishing village in Sri Lanka devastated by the tsunami. It was a very simple concert I created myself in the Anglican Church in Monaco. I think I made posters, very basic posters myself, and a few friends and I offered our music. But what was surprising was the generosity of the people of Monaco. The church was full, and we received a lot of donations. And this was a turning point for me, because I realized that if musical concerts could generate concrete and immediate aid to those in need, why don't we do these concerts more often? Not only as exceptional events after major catastrophes, but as an ongoing mission. And this was the starting point or the inspiration for ZhangomusiQ.
Tell us about the model of ZhangomusiQ in delivering concerts and benefiting charitable projects. I remember that you explained about it on a TED that you presented in the south of France, if my memory is correct. I love very much the explanation you gave, and it convinced me immediately. I would like you to share that, I think, as a very interesting premise of what you've been doing so far.
Well, the business model of live performance, musical performance, or any showbiz in a way, it's been the same since the beginning of time. Human beings have been playing music, singing, dancing since forever. Every human culture in every region of the world have their own musical culture. We are a musical species. So the idea of playing music to a public, it's a very ancient model. Before, we used to play for emperors, for the kings, or for the people, musicians. The business model was a two-way formula, which means as a musician, we offer our art. As a public, you pay to come to a concert or to hear some music, to receive some beauty, entertainment, delight. So this has always been a two-way street. What we experimented with ZhangomusiQ was that we added two more players in this formula. The cost of each concert, the cost of creating the concert, which means the technical cost, the fees for the musicians, the insurance, the lighting, all that stuff, renting the venue, is generated by partnerships, whether it's corporate or governmental partnerships, dedicated to social responsibility. And we invite an NGO to come to the concert to talk about their projects, whether it's educational, humanitarian, or ecological. And the NGO receives the entire revenue of each concert. So we have turned this two-way street, the classical two-way business model, into a four-way alliance. And it's been working very well. Since 2005, ZhangomusiQ created nearly 70 concerts benefiting projects in 35 countries.
That's remarkable. I was going to ask you to share a few important times. How ZhangomusiQ has identified targets and has approached these people. How was the journey? Did you convince people from the first time, or did you find it hard to actually convince people to collaborate with you for the good of their own cause?
Well, I think that I was very fortunate to be in the Principality of Monaco, because philanthropy and generosity is really part of the DNA of the Principality. Almost everyone I know in Monaco is involved in at least one or several charitable associations, projects. So this is the culture of Monaco, even though it's a very international community, or perhaps because it's an international community, that everyone have this shared desire to help others who are less fortunate. So when I created ZhangomusiQ, it was already in an environment which was very, how do I say that? I didn't have to really explain too much, because everyone here is very much involved and aware of the importance of philanthropy. And in the very beginning, I had helped from several very good friends who were not musicians, but were entrepreneurs, bankers, who taught me how to create events and also helped me to bridge the link on how to generate the funding and how to create partnerships. So I have to say that ZhangomusiQ perhaps would not have succeeded if it was not born in the Principality of Monaco.
Then it gives me an opportunity to share something. We also got this inspiration from Monaco in the first place to start this podcast, because even though Zhang and myself, we have been aware of all the issues that the environmental crisis are posing to the whole world. It was not until we really started to frequent these people who were sometimes militants or activists or just supporters of those causes in Monaco, that we got the impetus of thinking that we could do something on our side. So I totally relate, and I would like also to show and express my gratitude to Monaco for that, because it was an inspiration, and I think it merits to be said. So thank you for sharing that. So then if we go beyond Monaco, as you have. So you've joined the Philharmonic Orchestra in 2000. You started ZhangomusiQ in 2005-2006 after the tsunami. You've toured the world since then, and you've spread positive messages to local communities. This is a podcast about travel. So what is the link between travel and culture, in your opinion, Zhang?
Well, I've always been fascinated by the ancient Silk Roads ever since I was a child, especially since the initial explorer, his name was Zhang, like me, Zhang Qian, who was sent by the Emperor Wu Di of the Han Dynasty to go beyond the known frontiers of the empire at the time. Go west, see what's out there. To me, this is exactly the spirit that we need today, the curiosity, exploration, discovery, and this desire to connect with others, with other cultures, with other realms, with other peoples. So for me, travel and culture is fundamental to prosperity and peace on our planet.
I think they are an equally valid and I would say cherished tool for peace and for brotherhood or sisterhood around the world. I think a lot of people would agree with that. So thank you for your contribution on that front and your continuing contribution. One other word that I wanted to touch on is philanthropy. What about travel and philanthropy? Because that's what you've been doing, right?
Well, I think that when we travel, we discover the world. We discovered what is beyond our own horizon, and we learn from that. And of course, if we happen to come from a place where life is quite good, and we go to places when we see, sometimes not very far, maybe just outside our frontiers, we can see there are people who are in need of support, who are in need of understanding, and who are in need of generosity. I think this also makes us a better human being, to consider others, whether they come from a different culture, a different ethnicity, a different background, to be part of a greater community. I think this brings people together in a way that is positive for all parties involved. I think philanthropy is also a very ancient concept, whether it's through faith, religion, or through culture, practice, tradition. Helping each other is very much a human trait. And I think traveling helps remind us that part of our history and part of our humanity, which is why I think to have the curiosity to travel, to discover, and to have the open mind to accept those who are different from us, and to have the generosity to help those who have less, makes the world a better place. If everyone is conscious of this, we're capable of doing a lot of things, including creating weapons of mass destruction, as we know. But we are also capable of creating beauty and kindness. And I think travel is essential to bring everyone together.
There's one thing that I loved that you said in one of your interviews. I'm quoting you there. Exploration is not only the discovery of the unknown, but also the reinvention and transformation of what we already know. And I think it's a great definition, because you're talking about a very ambitious travel, just like you can also talk about local communities just around you. And I think it was very well crafted. It was in a TED that you said that, I think.
This was in Tedx Marseille in 2017. Because I think the word exploration, often when we talk about exploration, we think space or the Antarctic or the Arctic, somewhere far away, the desert, somewhere, we see people on camels or, in a submarine. But actually, I think exploration can be done right here and right now. Especially today, in the 21st century, I think that there's a lot of very fast evolution of technology, which makes many things possible that was not even imaginable 10 years ago. So how do we harness this immense power into something that is positive, not only to ourselves personally, but to others? Because I really do believe that human beings are connected. I mean, we see this in climate change. What happens in one part of the world will affect other parts of the world. So we are all interconnected. And I think
the butterfly effect.
Yes. So when we see images of devastation somewhere far from us, we may say, oh, that's too bad for them. But actually, what happens to them is also our responsibility, and our fates are linked together. I really think that is why I think the words, when we talk about travel, culture, philanthropy, diplomacy, it all means one thing, is that we live in the same world. We are one race, the human race. And the further we go from each other, the more dangerous it is for the well-being of all.
I agree with you. It's so travel as a tool, travel and music as a tool to bring people together and to erase or to diminish differences, so that people would get together as a community, as the human race, in a way.
Well, music serves something interesting. I think music and food has that in common, because we may not be able to speak the same language or read the same text, but we can play music, we can dance and sing together, and we can eat together. So I think that everything that we can use to show that we are a community, I think that music is a wonderful bridge, because you don't really need to translate music. I have played music for people with whom I could not speak with, and I can see that through music we understood each other, we became closer. And I always imagine in the ancient Silk routes, when people were walking all the way from Europe to China through the deserts, through all these different kingdoms, different tribes, different places, I think there must have been a lot of exchange, not only in goods, but also in art and culture. And we've seen that historically. 2019, I had the chance to go to Dunhuang on the Gobi Desert, which was the ancient frontier of China. And in the Mogao caves, there are paintings from the Tang Dynasty or even earlier. And clearly, in many of these paintings, you see people of different ethnicities coming together. From Persia, from India, from kingdoms that no longer exist. I think it's wonderful. So I think what we're talking about here, it's not new. It's been done before. But somehow certain aspects of that, because of technology, because of how far we've gone in certain ways, we have forgotten our roots. I think it's important. What we're doing right now is exactly, for me, like the modern Silk roads. We're using 21st century technology to share with each other, to communicate. And I think this is very exciting.
Absolutely. So ZhangomusiQ has had great successes so far in humanitarian and sustainability projects. I've witnessed some of them. Would you take the time to boast a little bit about some of your proudest achievements? It's not about bragging, but about sharing with people, because I think it's interesting that the audience understands better how far you're going in your attempt to actually use music as a tool and as a message.
Well, our model is very simple, basically. When the public attends our concerts, they know that whatever they paid for the ticket or whatever they donated to the project in its entirety will be given to a project in progress somewhere around the world. I think there are many projects. I think each of them is important to me. Even the smallest is important, because I feel that even if we're able to help one person or plant one tree, it's worth our effort, because you would have made a difference to that person or that animal or that piece of nature. One of the projects that I am very proud of is having helped created 2 schools for girls in Afghanistan in association with a Monaco organization called Mission Enfance. Education is another, I think, tool, if we can say that I believe can transform our world and humanity. We need education, quality education for our young people everywhere. We need to offer access of education to children, and in some parts of the world, to little girls who do not have access. And so this project for me in 2009 and 2017, the 2 schools we helped build in Afghanistan, is, I think, 2 of my proudest projects.
What about Kenya? I remember those pictures of you in Kenya. We're going to see a few pictures just to share a little bit, because what a contrast to see beautiful Chinese violinist in the not the jungle. What do you say, the savannah, right? Interpreting a piece of violin to Maasai warriors. It totally blew my mind when I saw that the first time. Let's watch a few images.
Some voyages takes us further from home. Other paths bring us back to our origins. My own journey began in China, yet I was taken away from this land after only a few brief years. Home is but a distant memory, a long-lost place, never to be found again, until the day I came to Africa. Even when we do not speak each other's native tongue, we can understand each other's songs. Music belongs to all of us. It is a truly human language, celebrating beauty, nature, and our life force. What unites us is far more powerful than that which divides us. Here, in the land of our shared ancestry, I have finally found the roots I have been searching for.
So, Zhang, we have traveled together. I think we can disclose the fact that we've known each other for a long time, almost 20 years. We've traveled together, and well, there's nothing wrong about it. Huh? So we've traveled together, and I personally witnessed the hope and the opportunity that you and Leo, mostly because it was you and Leo most of the time in Asia, that you have offered to these beneficiaries, to these people. What was the most poignant moment of all your trips around the world in that capacity?
Well, there were many. Of course, what you saw in Kenya was very special for me. But the project that we went together, we created together in Vietnam, we went to visit this orphanage by this.
Yes.
That was very special when we were, if you remember, this beautiful garden in the sun with flowers, and we saw all these very beautiful children coming to greet us. And that, at some point, I played for children before. I played for migrant children. I've played for handicapped children. It's all very special and very touching. But to see these little kids, and I think most of them were 3 and 4 years old, and the thought was that their families give them up. My feeling was that they didn't give them up because they didn't love them. They give them up because they love them. By giving up
I agree with
their
you.
child to this orphanage, they know that the child will receive an education and a childhood that they cannot afford to offer their child. And I think that was a very touching moment. Spending that day with the children, playing with them, dancing with them. For me, I realized that what can we do so that parents do not have to make this impossible choice? How can we help our world so that no mother would separate herself from her child in order for the child to have a good future? To me, that trip was something that really resonated with me. It motivated me to want to do more.
Yeah, those are good memories indeed. So we titled this episode Musical Diplomacy. People might wonder what diplomacy has to do with it. So do you think, what do you think is musical diplomacy, and why would you use the word diplomacy in what you're doing?
Well, since 2000, I have had the occasion to accompany Their Excellencies ambassadors of the Principality of Monaco to various countries. I think in Japan, you were there once, a long time ago.
Yes.
We've
Yes,
also worked with the ambassador of Monaco to Rome, to Moscow, to Paris. For me, again, going back to what we're talking about, culture and travel is diplomacy. It's the connection between different peoples from different lands, different cultures, coming together to communicate with each other, to share with each other, maybe to develop mutual interest, to develop prosperity, to develop trade. But music, as well as food, is a very beautiful way of bringing people together in a very simple, direct, and human way. So I think that diplomacy linked with culture is a very smart way of sharing the interest or sharing the projects of one country with another. It is a bridge.
Without being subjugated to the particular agenda of a government. I think it's a very seductive way of practicing diplomacy. I agree with you. You can bring things to the table that will not be censored or will not be altered by people who do the usual diplomacy where you can say that but not say this. I like the fact that as a musician, when you practice diplomacy, you keep entirely your freedom.
Well, because as musicians, because music is universal, and I have to say that classical music especially is one of the art form that is the most inclusive. That's the word we're using a lot today. Inclusive in the sense that anyone from around the world can learn to play the piano, learn to play the violin. There are symphonic orchestras in Asia, in Africa, in Middle East, in South America. So this is if we can say, an indigenous European art form that has been open to all human beings around the world. And that having this common language, it brings us together. And in the sense that diplomacy is able to understand each other and speak each other's language. So that when I, as a Chinese musician born in Beijing, play an opera by Verdi, or by, a ballet by Rimsky-Korsakov, that is already diplomacy right there, because we have gone beyond our own frontiers, our own cultures. So I think music as an art form, especially classical music, is the best example of the beauty and the good we can create when we come together, when there are no walls, no frontiers, when there's openness.
So what do you think the musical diplomacy model that you're utilizing has not been adequately and more broadly exploited around the world?
I think that it has been used already by many countries. If you see each country, sometimes when they have these the culture ambassadors, whether it's a choir or a dance troupe or an orchestra, promoting the culture and the interests of their own country when they travel. Here we go, travel again, when we go on tour. And this is musical diplomacy. Since I've joined the Orchestre Philharmonique de Monte Carlo, we have played often in other countries, a lot of countries in Europe.
But if I may cut you for a second, what they do not necessarily do is that they do not raise funds. So not only do you practice musical diplomacy, but you also raise funds for causes. They don't do that most of the time. They are paid by the government to show the excellence of a country, and that's it, which is good enough already. I agree with you.
Yes. I think musical diplomacy is a very classical concept, and it has been used. But musical philanthropy, I believe that Jungle Music had pushed this concept a little bit further because, as I said before earlier, usually there are charity concerts, sometimes organized by mega stars, like Live Aid, or I think there was a big concert for COVID. So this is all very exciting, but these are very rare occasions, and it usually is initiated after some major calamity. But people need help all the time. People, the environment. I believe that we should turn music philanthropy into a regular mission, not only as exceptional moments bringing people together, because we see the effects that when musicians, artists, entertainers coming together, raise funds, raise awareness towards a cause, there's a huge effect, positive effect. So Jungle Music is trying to promote the idea that why don't we do these kind of events more often, everywhere?
It's interesting also in your profile to see that you've also in a way created niche opportunities, and I'm thinking particularly of the travel industry. A lot of the people in our industry know the SKAL organization, which predates us by far, and you are a SKAL member in Monaco, and you actually worked together with them to actually win the World Congress of SKAL for the benefit of Monaco. What made you sign up as a member while you're a violinist by profession?
Well, I didn't sign up. I did not know about SKAL. I was recruited. It was in 2014. Monaco was one of the 3 candidates competing for the right to create the World Congress for 2016. And our existing committee at the time SKAL Monaco is very special. As you know, we're very small, but each member, as we say in Chinese, it's crouching tiger, hidden dragon. Everyone is someone, so they approached me, notably Mr. Axel Oppenau, marketing director.
Because you are someone too.
SBM. He talked to me. He said, "Do you know about SKAL?" I said, "What? Like skulls and bones?" He's like, "No, SKAL." He explained to me what SKAL was. He said that we are in the finals we're a candidate for a very important event to be able to create this World Congress in Monaco. He said, "We think that you could serve as a secret weapon to present Monaco." So this is how it came about. And the president of SKAL Monaco is Constantine Panussi, very senior member of SKAL International. And it was decided that we would travel to Mexico City together. Constantine, myself, and Antonio Ducheschi, who was then one of the directors for Fairmont, Monaco. So we prepared a representation of Monaco, and our competitors was Rome and Lima, very famous destinations. But somehow,
Indeed.
Our presentation, and we did rehearsals, because I wanted this to be sort of like a performance. So we really trained and we were very prepared. I remember this was my first World Congress for SKAL. And I was very impressed because I don't know if you ever attended a SKAL World Congress. Members of each country, they would wear the same clothes, the same shirts or the same hats with the flags. I was totally impressed. I think Australia had, I don't know, maybe 30 members coming. Canada, Turkey, there were definitely, America had very many club members joined. And there we were, 4 people from Monaco with a little Monaco flags. And Lima even brought dance troupes and figurants. They did this beautiful show of Machu Picchu, and Rome showed a film of the Colosseum, Vatican, and we had me. That was it. But we had I think our presentation was excellent in many ways. So I will not talk about that now because you can be seen. But what was surprising was that we were the underdog in a way, but we received more votes than those other 2 cities combined. So it was a real triumph. And this was my introduction into SKAL International. Not only that,
well done.
This was a great adventure, but at the same time, I was welcomed into the SKAL International family. And this has been really instrumental to ZhangomusiQ, because in the past few years, when I started the world tour, supported with the generosity of the government, the Principality of Monaco, many of my projects were created in association with colleagues from different parts of the world, in Washington, D.C., in Budapest, in Bangkok. So thanks to SKAL, ZhangomusiQ was able to create meaningful events around the world, helping people in need. I'm very grateful to SKAL, and I'm very proud to be part of the SKAL family.
I remember that you gave a very compelling speech. Well done again. I thought it was interesting to see how, again, music, diplomacy, philanthropy can link together through different economic sectors. So tourism and hospitality being one of them. But obviously, I guess you can translate this model into several, maybe countless economic sectors. All right. So moving on. I wanted to touch also on other projects and foundations with famous people at their helm and that you contributed to and yet you work with. I'm thinking in particular of the Nicolas Hulot Foundation and Bertrand Piccard's Solar Impulse project. Can you tell us more about both and give the audience a little bit of background and storytelling about it and how you fitted in as a musician?
Well, Nicolas Hulot and Bertrand Piccard, as well as Yann, the French filmmaker who I also work with, these are people who have traveled around the world and have seen the devastation climate change has been affecting our planet and our people. Nicolas Hulot's foundation is called Pour Nature et l'Homme, the Foundation for Nature and Man. I joined their foundation as an ambassador in 2007, and we have created several projects. The first one was a concert I created in Monaco, raising funds to help build a reservoir in Djibouti. Because of climate change, traditionally the nomads, when they travel with their cattle or goats, the water sources along the way was very important for the survival of this nomadic tradition. But because of climate change, a lot of the water sources dried up. So the Nicolas Hulot Foundation was helping them to create a reservoir so that these nomads could continue their way of life. Other projects followed. I believe that we are all involved in the challenges confronting our planet. Even if where we are living doesn't seem to have such risk, you turn on the tap, there's water, we can buy food, there's everything we need. But climate change and its devastations to humanity is a real concern, and I've wanted to do my part. And by associating jungle music with these monuments of ecology, transformation, new technology, I think that we are also contributing in our way to promote this very necessary evolution of the 21st century.
Are they your environmental heroes in the sustainability fields? Who are your heroes, Zhang?
Well, people like Nicolas Hulot, Bertrand Piccard, Yann, or Dominique Bourg, a philosopher, Pablo Servigne, ecologist. These are very well-known figures, and they use their notoriety, their time, to share information and inspiration to help people engage in the very necessary work that we have to do. But I also think some of the heroes of environmental projects are the people on the ground who are out there cleaning the oceans, who are out there picking up plastic, who are out there in their garage inventing a new way how to generate better ways of dealing with waste. Or I think these are the people. They're not necessarily people we know for the moment, but I think their work every day, and also the educators who are teaching children of today how to become more ecologically aware, I think these are also the real heroes.
I agree with you, and that's actually one of the goals of the Chorus podcast, is to offer a platform to these people who are, under the radar, but who are actually making a difference on a daily basis, and who are the unsung heroes. I think those people merit to be propped up, and that's what we're trying to do. Thank you for saying that. So, Zhang, you're a true citizen of the world. You are Canadian. After more than 2 decades, you're probably a bit monégasque, or Monacan, like it is written in the dictionary. But you're also Chinese. You're of Chinese origin. And I believe that you have never repudiated your roots, and rightly so. I think what a pity it would be. So what do you think of China's response on the fronts of sustainability and the protection of the environment?
Well, I can say that last time I was in China was in 2019, especially in the town of Dunhuang in the Gobi Desert. It's still a very small city. It doesn't even have a McDonald's. That's the kind, which Chinese city doesn't have a McDonald's? But we saw...
Maybe it's a good thing.
It's a very good thing. So go there before it starts. But we saw more electric vehicles on the street than many European cities. That is...
Interesting.
Yeah, that is for me innovation. Here we have a city that is on the edge of the desert, or you can see the desert all around the city, which is still... I think in some ways, I was there with my mother. She said some of these architecture reminded her of Beijing in the 1950s. No high-rise. Very simple, lovely people, culture, a lot of historical monuments. But yet you had this really innovative electric scooters, cars. So I think China is doing it. I think the great thing about China is that they are very much aware of the challenges. Environmental challenges. They signed the COP21 agreement, and they are doing, I think, what they can to innovate new technology, to invent and to create new ways of adapting to these challenges. But keep in mind that China is a very big country with a lot of people. So sometimes I think people are impatient by the lack of speed these progress is happening. But I think if you actually go to China and see on the street, in the people's homes, I mean, how many people are using solar power or electric? And now I think that hydrogen is a new technology that people are replacing with the old, the fuel energy. How do I say, to put aside, if possible, the old formulas that's more polluting. So I believe in China's ability to progress. And for me, I'm in love with its Chinese civilization. This is my roots. Even though I've left China as a child, I always feel in my heart that I am a Chinese.
That's absolutely normal, and it would be such a pity for you to actually drop this fabulous heritage. I from my own observations, I was actually impressed when it comes to sustainability and how China was facing these issues, how fast it was going actually, because we, from our viewpoint in the West or in more developed countries, at least in countries which have been developed for a longer time, that pace has actually been very slow. We've been quite complacent for a long time, and we're only waking up to that, uncomfortable truth when the Chinese actually in the last decade have progressed so fast in terms of, changing the motors to electric motors, to the scooters. I remember the first times I went to China, Shanghai was filled with this smog, which was mainly due to the scooters, which, those motors are very polluting, and now it doesn't exist anymore. I'm not saying that Shanghai is, super clean, but it's so much cleaner, and nobody can say the contrary when they get there. So I agree with you. Thank you for sharing this.
I think it's important to encourage progress. To say, as you said, Shanghai this year was like that, now it's better. I think that we need to, as people, to encourage different nations, different groups, different cultures to say that, yes, this is the right direction. Instead of always pointing to the imperfections, I think that it's important also to acknowledge the efforts that has been made.
I agree with you. Actually, it's a good remark, and it touches very vividly, I would say, on one of the premises of this podcast as well, is that we're trying here to fight apathy. I will talk more about it because this is something I've been convinced about. And I think it's precisely that. Apathy comes from the notion that people feel helpless as an individual, and they say, oh, well, what can I do? As opposed to a community which could unite and have a voice. And I saw very much the fact that in China, they work like that. They work as a group, they work as a community. And that's why change is happening fast, because there's no apathy. No one can say that they cannot do anything, because at a point in time, they will be able to be integrated in a community, and they will participate in it. And I think it's very important that the environmental agenda is seized by more people, more individuals, letting them understand that they can change the world. They just need to articulate their will and their convictions, unite with like-minded people, and make it work. And that's what we're trying to do, you and me, right now, and Zhang, who's in the background.
I think it's important to give people hope. When people have hope, they have resilience. And I think it's important and this is where education is important, certainly with young people, but also just in general, bring awareness to people to say, okay, you may not be able to change everything, but here's what you can do on a daily basis that would contribute. And when we mentioned the Nicolas Hulot Foundation, I think they do a lot of this kind of pedagogy to say, okay, what can you do at home? What can you do when you go on vacation that would limit waste, that would limit the damage to the environment. I think this is important on a small scale, so that everyone feels that, yes, I'm doing something. And this comes back to jungle music. Every time when people come to our concerts, if they pay 20 euros, they know that this 20 euros is contributing to some child getting vaccination, or to an elderly person being able to have a good Christmas. So this feeling of bringing people together by saying that you are important, you can make a difference, I think this will help people to become engaged. And this is also something that I think culture and music can do, to bring people together and to give this sense of optimism.
Well, one personality in the world that does bring people together with a great kindness and talent is Prince Albert of Monaco. And back to China and to the Chinese, Zhang, can I assume that it is thanks to the recognition and appreciation of what you are and what you do in Monaco that you were summoned to meet Mrs. Peng Liyuan, President Xi Jinping's spouse, the Chinese First Lady, and play the violin for her and Princess Charlene?
Well, it was an invitation that I was very honored to receive from their Serene Highnesses, Prince Albert II and Princess Charlene, to give a live performance in the palace during the historical presidential visit of Mr. Xi Jinping to the Principality of Monaco. It was very moving for me because this is exactly the two countries that is dearest to my heart. China, my roots, and Monaco being my home since 20 years. It was an exceptional moment. I was very touched by this privilege given to me by their Serene Highnesses, and I was also very impressed and moved by the kind words said to me by Madame Xi Jinping. I called her Professor Peng Liyuan, as she is a musician, and it was a wonderful moment for me.
Was it yet a different but a new token of recognition for you in Monaco?
The first thing that Madame Xi Jinping said to me when Her Serene Highness Princess Charlene presented us in Chinese, Madame Xi Jinping said, I know about you. You are the pride of Chinese women. And that to me was...
That's wonderful.
Yeah, that to me was very personal, was very sincere, was very beautifully said. She's a beautiful lady. So there I was in front of these two beautiful ladies, smiling, and I felt it was a unique moment for me in my career. Also musical diplomacy at its highest. And what was even better, a cherry on the cake, is that towards the end, it was a prepared program. Towards the end, Prince Jacques and Princess Gabriella came into the room, and Princess Charlene said, oh, come and hear Zhang Zhang play the violin. And Princess Charlene said to me, he said, could you play something more for the kids? So spontaneously, I thought, what can I play for the children? So I played Someday My Prince Will Come from Disney, Snow White. And the photographers, there were many photographers representing Chinese media, Monaco media, the international media. They took a photo of this moment where Princess Charlene with Prince Jacques on her knee and Princess Gabriella seated between the two first ladies watching me. So this photo became the cover of Point Vue. You don't see me, but you see their expression watching this performance. And to me, that is something I'm very touched by.
A very endearing moment.
Yes, it was very memorable, yes.
All right. Well, I'm sorry for asking you a little bit of a people question, but I couldn't. I could not do it. All right. So something a bit less endearing is that performing arts have been one of the hardest hit sectors of the economy during the COVID-19 crisis, and it doesn't seem to improve at a pace that is satisfactory for all the musicians and performing artists around the world. Do you think that the response of the governments around the world has been sustainable? How have you dealt with this on your side?
Well, again, as you said, this has been the COVID-19 global pandemic has been the biggest catastrophe that the live performing arts industry has experienced in the modern age. And I think we were not prepared for a devastation of this scale that is so prolonged as well. It wasn't just a few months, but it's been a year. But again, the Principality of Monaco has been exemplary. Since September 2020, we have been giving regular concerts to live public following our normal concert season. Of course, observing the sanitary barriers. The musicians are tested, the audience do not sit side to side. But we have been, I think for many months, we were unique in Europe to be able to give musical concerts to live audiences, including the Ballet de Monte Carlo and Opera de Monte Carlo. So I think the Monaco model, how the government managed this crisis in terms of culture, could be a fine example for other countries. We are doing something right here. And I felt very fortunate to be a musician working in Monaco, whereas many of my colleagues around the world have not been so fortunate. Europe also has been exemplary. For instance, the major orchestras in Paris, in Vienna, or cities in Italy, they have been giving concerts, and Switzerland as well. They have been recording their concerts, sometimes to stream live to audiences, sometimes pre-recorded and then broadcasted. But in the United States of America or England, their model is a bit different. So many musicians from the top orchestras have already lost their employment. So it is a real devastation to our entire industry. But there are lessons to be learned. And Jungle Music as well, because we could no longer tour or create live concerts, so we thought about how we can continue our mission. And in July 2020, we created our first philanthropy concert using cloud technology in Suzhou, China. So I think this is the future as well, combining 21st century technology with the musical arts, and to, in my sense, to generate positive social progress. This should be one of the game changers of the post-pandemic future.
That brings me to a question that falls just right after what you just said. Your violin master, late Sergiu Luca, once told you, play the music, don't play the violin. I'm here to teach you music, not to create some product for the commercial market. So what would be your advice to young musicians aspiring to a career today?
Well, what he really meant to say is that I was only focused on the technical aspects of mastering an instrument, but not conveying music. He was teaching all of us to say that our profession is not about being a violinist, but to be an artist, a musician whose instrument happened to be the violin, but it could have been another instrument. So it was from him that I learned why we play music. The idea is to create music to share with others. To today's young people hoping to have a career in music, or especially in classical music, I think the challenges are big. There are less posts in the professional orchestras in most of the Western countries, and the competition is very tough. It was already tough 20 years ago. When I entered the L'Orchestre Philharmonique de Monte Carlo, the day of the audition, there was more than 100 candidates. Today, it could be more. So I think today's young musicians, or any musician...
100 candidates behind a screen, right?
Yes. So that's one of the things that has been introduced in the 70s to ensure parity and objectivity. So I think today's young people, I think they need to really be passionate about music and to be aware. I think professors need to tell their students, young students, that the actual challenges out there, because we can no longer imagine that just because a young person plays well their instrument, that his career is assured. Because opportunities have changed, the market has changed, we must adapt to the 21st century. Because today, unlike 100 years ago, even music lovers, they could appreciate music sitting at home, using the internet or streaming. They no longer need to go to a live concert to appreciate music. So the model has changed, and we need to really acknowledge that, what the market is. I think that we are still teaching young classical musicians as if it's the 1800s. And I think that is the era. We need to teach young people not only the technique of how to master an instrument, about musical culture, but also about the world which they live in. Because eventually, when they leave music school and the conservatories, they are confronted with the realities of this world. Where is our place in the 21st century and beyond as a classical musician? I think parents and teachers have a responsibility to teach the young people today of the realities.
You said in another interview, classical musicians are not only cultivated conservators and curators of the glorious historical arts, we are also creative and dynamic leaders of tomorrow. I want to insist on leaders. And I'm sure that Sergiu Luca also was thinking about it in the back of his head, that a musician who actually plays music is also someone who has an impact on people and can be a leader. Can you elaborate on that? Because you're a leader.
Well, again, goes back to what I was saying before. The reality has changed. Even 50 years ago, someone with a very good professional level, you have a life pretty assured of a career, whether it's teaching, whether it's solo concert, chamber music, orchestra. But today, the challenges are different. But we can use that. We can evolve without jeopardizing our art, without having to cut corners towards the excellence of what we represent. But we have to rethink, how do we as musicians, as artists, see the world today? Where is our place? What can we do besides just offering entertainment or inspiration or beauty, which is important? What else can we do? And that, again, I think jungle music is one of the models that is possible for musicians today to engage in, is that we can also actively take part in generating concrete and immediate aid to our society, to our communities. That, for me, is what I meant by leadership.
Well, I think it's a great conclusion to this interview and this podcast, this Chorus podcast today. Zhang, thank you very much for your time. I know that you've been very busy in the last few months. You've been on the radio. You've been interviewed by a lot of magazines in France, in particular, about how we should define music excellence and also the agenda of variety. Was it the word that was contentious?
I think mostly I've been a loud voice against the rising trend of cancel culture, especially targeting classical music. I've written a few tribunes, including a tribune for Figaro Vox, which was one of the most read tribunes in their journal.
It was very well written. I have to say.
It received 120,000 reads in the first week. So I'm quite proud of that, especially since it was in French. I can tell you my French has gotten a lot better because of this.
I have to agree. Although your French was already quite good, but the written French, as everybody who is a foreigner and who has, learned this language is a hard thing, right? So thank you very much, Zhang. Thank you. We hope to see you soon, and we hope to have the opportunity to interview you. Keep being awesome. And on our side, we'd like to thank the audience for their interest and for keeping up with us. We have more coming. Our lineup is filled with inspiring ladies and gentlemen from all around the world. So we'll talk more and share more in the near future. Thank you.
Thank you.